Yarajindi.
Nethdagote.
She Tante Baka Huntia.
She Madison uses Huntia.
And welcome back to another episode of Small Town Reservations. So today we're going to be talking about MMIP and Elijah Hadley.
He was a member of the Mescalero Apache tribe, and he was a member of our community.
He was a brother, a son, and a friend.
He was involved in his culture, and he was involved in extracurricular activities such as art.
I know there's been a lot of Facebook posts. What have you seen on Facebook about Elijah?
Well, I've seen that his family got a lot of love and support on Facebook.
Yes.
What did you see?
I seen a lot of, people supporting the family and showing them love, and his friends had posted a lot of, pictures of him, and the one that really touched me was you could just see the love he had for his niece.
Yeah,
and
I saw
friends.
those ones.
But I also had seen that one of his teachers, they had made a post saying that it was a picture of him doing like a piece of art.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I don't know, the schools have when we were in school, you would decorate the hallway for homecoming or whatever.
Yeah, stuff like that.
And I had seen that one of the teachers had mentioned that he was really quiet, in the classroom, and they wanted to do some kind of piece of artwork, and they asked him to do it, and his face just lit up, and he just did such an amazing job on the artwork. It did look beautiful, and it was a big piece of art. And
that's amazing. So he was a little younger than us, but we do remember seeing him at school, and he always had a smile, and
he was always with his friends.
Yeah.
Laughing around.
Yeah. Joking in the hallways.
It was so funny. I remember I seen him in gym one time, and I think they were playing dodgeball with those little kids. And they were going ham on those kids, but I was laughing. It was him and a bunch of little boys, and I thought it was so funny.
I remember those days.
Yes. I don't know if you've seen the video, but I'm sure some of you have seen the video going around Facebook of the tragedy that happened, and it just really, hit home for me. It's one of our own, and it just really hurt my heart, and I have a lot to say about it, but this is about him and about who he was.
And about his life.
And I seen a picture on Facebook of him and his friends at prom. And that just goes to show that he was a normal kid who had so much life to live.
Yeah, he was barely starting life.
I think he was 17 years old. And we just wanted to make this episode to shed light on who he was, the kind of person he was. He was kind. By the Facebook post, you could tell that people really did
love him and care about him.
Yes. And I keep going back to the niece pictures. Your nieces and your nephews really are your world, and you could tell that his niece was his world. In every picture that I see of her, he loved her.
Yeah, you can tell in the pictures.
And his friends, there was a lot of his friends, posting their memories. And
he had a lot of friends.
He had a lot of friends. And a lot of, adults that worked at the school, they were talking about their experiences. And he just seemed like a really good kid that had so much life.
Yeah.
He was going to be something.
Yeah.
And
he was barely starting out.
He still had time to figure out what he was going to do.
To navigate life.
Yes. Because this is a tragedy to a Native American. This tragedy happened, and we don't know all the details. This is an ongoing investigation, and once that investigation is closed, we will make another episode going into detail about everything. And as updates come, this may turn into a series, and we may make more episodes talking about the updates.
Yep.
But for right now, this is all we're gonna really say about it. We want to honor Elijah and his life and his family.
Yes.
But we also wanted to talk about the epidemic of MMIP. So I don't know if you saw, but I was watching the news the other day, and I don't remember which day it was. It wasn't today, but it was
a few days
ago. I had seen on the news that they had reported that in the last 10 days, 40 Native American people have gone missing. 40 people.
That's a tragedy.
That's a tragedy. And how many of those 40 people are gonna show up at home?
Yeah. How many are they gonna find?
Exactly.
Or how many are gonna make it home?
Exactly. And that just goes to show that Native Americans do have a target on their back. And I think that a lot of the times these people that do bad things, they look at us and they stereotype us and they think, oh, well, they're Native, so nobody's gonna go looking for them.
It happens all the time.
Nobody's gonna cause ruckus. Nobody's gonna fight for them. That's just that, that's just that. And I gotta say that I am so proud of like how far MMIP has come. I think that there's a lot more people talking about it. Advocating.
So with that, I do feel that majority of the time, that they do sweep Native American cases under the rug. And that's that.
Well, I do remember that at some of the BIA offices, they were had these like MMIP. They were making like a department for MMIP where they would get the cold cases and they had people on them. But I did see that they were like closing a lot of those departments down.
Really?
They weren't even open for that long.
They weren't.
Because
I seen a few of those.
Yeah, and a lot of them are closing down. I don't know why, but I thought that was a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think there needs to be more action.
There you go.
Than because everyone's talking about it, everyone's advocating, but what are we doing?
Exactly.
What steps are we taking to get there?
Yes, how are we protecting, our Native American people? And I think that we're human, we're people, and then nobody looks at us that way. They, like I said, they stereotype. They see us as nothing, but we are, our traditions and our cultures are so beautiful.
Yes, I think so.
We are breaking those barriers, Lily Gladstone's an actress that's playing in all these big movies, and there's Native lawyers now who are fighting cases like this. I think that we are getting up there, but we need to figure out, okay, well, how can we get there to make a change with MMIP?
Yeah, what can we all do to take a step in that direction to get there? Yeah.
To end this epidemic, because it is an epidemic. I listen to true crime podcasts all the time, and I like to listen to the ones that are about Native girls, and even sometimes the Native girls, their cases get so they're not unsolved, but they put them as something else. It's obviously murder, but they'll put it as oh, that was hypothermia. Selena Not Afraid. I always talk about Selena Not Afraid. When that first came out, I was on that case from the beginning. I was listening to everything. I was watching the updates. I was even following the family's Facebook account. And just everything that they were putting out, even the police reports, was showing homicide. But they were like, oh no, it was hypothermia. It was hypothermia. And it's just but it's not.
Yeah.
But because she's Native, because she's indigenous woman, hypothermia will do.
Yeah.
They didn't take it any further.
They didn't investigate and get her that justice.
And I feel for all of us, because the sad reality to all of these tragedies, whatever, the missing people, the murdered people, the Native people, we never get closure. We never get to heal from it. These families don't get to even lay their loved ones to rest the right way.
So I do think that us as Native people, we need to protect our own and show these young kids and tell them these situations, not in depth, you know what I mean? But we need to make them more aware of that these situations do happen, and it's sad and it's a tragedy, but we need to teach them how to protect themselves or protect others if they were ever in a situation like this or an encounter like this, to know what to do to get home.
You know, my mom always from a young age, she never sheltered me from knowing, you know, the reality to what this world is. And she always, and I said this before, like she always told me, you know, you have two disadvantages in life, which is one, I'm Native, two, I'm a woman. And she always told me, you know, to be careful, to always be aware, to not go to the bathroom by yourself. Wherever you're at, always go with a buddy to the bathroom, you know. Just constantly be aware of your surroundings because you never, like, even she always told me, like, don't trust people. Like, even if there's a cute boy and you're like, oh, he's so cute, don't trust him because it's usually, like, for example, you know, sex traffickers use, like, young boys to get these young girls to go and sex traffic them. They'll start talking to them, they'll start making them feel good, and they'll start trusting them, and then and people think I'm crazy. Like, there's older people where I'll go hang out with them and, like, and I'll tell them, like, this, like, no, I can't do that, and then they'll tell me something they're doing, and I'm like, you better not do that. You're like, sex traffic, you're gonna get stolen. And they tell me, like, you overthink too much. Like, why do you even think that way? And I'm like, how could you not be thinking that way?
I think it's just like the way we were raised.
And I think that even like the young boys, you know, they teach, like, it is different for boys, but it's really not. Like, it can happen to young boys too.
It can happen to anyone.
And to anybody, you know, and you may think this is your friend and it's not. Like, they could flip on you in a split second.
Yeah, in a split second.
You just can't trust people.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that the res is safer than whatever, but you don't really see a lot of, like, well, on our res, you know, you don't really see a lot of, like, crazy crap that happens in the outside world. Like, I'm more scared of moving away than, like, staying. I feel safe here, you know. I know everybody.
You know everybody.
But, like, you go out, you don't know anybody, and they could do anything to you. And
you know everybody here. Your aunts, your uncles, your cousins.
Like, you know everybody. But you go outside, and it's just a different world. And I think that if you have lived on the reservation your whole life and you haven't really been talked about, like, you know, talked to about the stuff outside, then you go outside and you just think it's the res and you go crazy, but it's not.
It's not.
It's a whole different world.
Yeah.
And you do have to be careful.
And you have to be aware of your surroundings and travel with friends or, like, make sure people know where you're at all times.
But I also want to add that, like, you could be the safest person and it just could still happen to you because sadly, you know, we're living in scary times. This world is just something else.
It's dangerous and
it's not, and in no way is it any of these people's fault of what happened to them, even though, you know, you could be aware and it could still happen to you, but I'm not saying it's their fault for not being aware, but that's I feel like a step that us natives can take into, you know, preparing our kids for the outside world or to try to reduce the chances of it being you. And there is some tragedies that
you just can't prevent.
And it's sad.
It's heartbreaking.
It's heartbreaking. And I seen one thing to another case that happened in Farmington, and it was like at a Chinese restaurant.
Oh my gosh, I've seen that too.
And they, like, the police, I don't know how they got a call, but they went in there and this place had like hundreds of girls that they were like getting ready to sex traffic, and thankfully the police got there in time to, like, who knows how many more people they sex trafficked before this group, but they shut them down and I think they went to jail.
That was crazy.
You remember seeing that?
Yeah,
but
I do.
That's what I mean, is just that it happened everywhere. You know, in Indian country, everywhere. And
sometimes you just really can't prevent it. You really.
And I think that you have to use your voice, though. You have to talk about it. People say, oh, don't talk about it. You know, don't talk about it. Don't.
Yeah, let it be.
Let it be. And it's not.
No.
Don't ever let anybody tell you to let it be. You fight, you You fight for justice. You
fight for what you believe in.
Fight for what you believe in. Always remember who you are and where you come from. You know, we come from warriors and chiefs and people who fought for their land for years.
Yes.
And never gave up.
Never,
like I always
ever gave
say,
up.
like Geronimo, you know, have a Geronimo mentality. I always talk about that, and that's how we want to state. But I always say, because if you know who Geronimo is, he was the last to surrender, and he fought to the very end. And you have to have a Geronimo mentality. Through all of this, you have to continue to fight, no matter what. No matter what they're trying to take from you, no matter if they're trying to keep you quiet. No. Remember who you are. You make these people feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Make people
make
feel
them hear you.
And I think that's the whole thing with the MMIP is like we're finally advocating and fighting that we are making them uncomfortable. You know, we're making the government and the higher ups uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because they don't know what to do. And if we all were to stand together and fight this epidemic, I truly believe that we will make a change.
Yeah.
That's what we wanted to say about MMIP and Elijah Hadley. We also wanted to add again that we wanted to make a more in-depth video about Elijah Hadley
and his case.
But because it is an ongoing investigation, we don't want to jeopardize anything. We don't want to say anything that's not factual. So once we get more updates, we will come on and talk about it. And once the investigation is closed and shut, we will make an in-depth video.
Yes. And our heart goes out to the family and friends of Elijah Hadley.
And the community.
Yes, we're here supporting you.
And we are standing with you. And that's why we wanted to make this episode.
Yes.
It's honoring him and letting people know the kind of person he was.
Yes, we wanted to shed light on his life.
And may his soul rest beautifully.
And we want to thank everyone for supporting Elijah Hadley's family and speaking up about it on his case and continuing to speak about his case and his life.
And continue to say his name, Elijah Hadley.
Yeah.